Oh, hey friends. I'm going to talk to you today about dados, how to cut them, what they are, how to set them up, all things dados. Um, in here, we normally cut our dados on this sweet Powermatic table saw, and we've got a stacked dado set where we stack different blades together to get the width that we want. Then we adjust our height for the depth. Sometimes we cut our dados all the way through. Sometimes we do what they call a blind dado. Okay, I've got a little project here. It's going to be a shot glass holder shelf cabinet thing. And so you can see that these shelves are inserted into the sides. There's a little dado, a little groove that shelf goes in to hold it in there. Okay, so that's basically what a dado is. These are not the most attractive things ever. Like, they're not really that pleasing to look at. So most of the time, we're going to have a face frame or something to cover that, so we don't really fret about it. But every now and then, we don't have a face frame, and so we have to cut what they call a blind dado. Okay, this is my friend Boyd's dresser, and he's got two kinds of dados. Here, this little divider goes up into the top and into the bottom, so that's just a regular through dado that goes all the way in. Over here on this side, the dado does not show on the front of his cabinet. So I can see over here that it's dadoed in, and then he's kind of got this front piece notched out. And that's so this cabinet, this project's not going to get a face frame, and so if we cut a dado in there, we'd see it. What he's going to do is, to hide this plywood edge, he's going to make a strip of 1/4 inch oak that will get attached to that to hide the plywood and then butt in here. But if we had a dado, you'd see it and it'd look bad. Now, we started doing our blind dados different. So basically, a blind dado is you're going to cut almost all the way through, and then you stop it, and then you kind of have to notch this out. Now, we used to stop it right here, real close to the edge, and then in the last few years, we decided that if we stop it back about 3 inches, then we can cut this back farther and give us room to put a pocket screw in to really hold that. And that's actually a way better way than we used to do it. It just gives us a mechanical fastener to tie that together. So that's a little bit about dados. Now let's learn how to actually cut them. Whenever we're messing with the blade on the table saw, we either want to disconnect the power, or our saws have a couple ways where we can prevent them from turning on without unplugging it. On this one, it's got this little magnetic key. So if I take that magnetic key out, it won't turn on. It needs that to make the switch work. So I can remove that, and then it's safe to mess with the blade. And basically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and get the amount of blades to equal the width of what I'm trying to cut. I just want to show you how to cut a blind dado real quick. So what we'll do is we'll take something square and we'll rotate that blade until we find the front of the blade. Okay, so that's hitting my board right there. And then we'll draw a line on the fence. And then we'll do the same thing on the back of the blade. So I'm going to rotate that until it hits the back. Okay, and then we'll draw a line on the fence. And then depending on how far back we want to stop, we'll just make a line on here. Okay, so then on one side, I actually have to drop the piece down onto the blade where my line where I want to stop is even with the back side of the blade. So I drop that down on there and then cut that the rest of the way through. This can be a little bit dangerous, obviously. Sometimes we'll figure this out ahead of time, and we'll put a clamp so the board can't come back any farther. Like, we don't want it getting thrown back at us. So if I know I want it to start right here, I'll scoop my clamp up so there's no way that board can come back at me, because I'm basically dropping it down on a moving blade. Okay, so I'll show you this one time. Okay, I better get a push stick. There we go. All right, here we go. Oh yeah. Okay, and so that is dropping that down on the blade and pushing it through. Now then, to do the other side, if I have one down here, it's a little easier. And on that one, all I have to do is stop it. So I'd make my measurement, whatever this line was, where I want to stop it. I'll just say it's right here. And I'm basically just going to push that through until my line gets to the line I made that's the front of the blade. So I'll show you that. Then I'm going to hold on to it and wait for the blade to stop so it doesn't come flying back at me. Okay, so that's a blind dado. All right, that one I dropped. This one I stopped, which probably makes you think of that one song by the guy who died last year, DMX. Rough Riders anthem. It's hard for me to cut blind dados without thinking of that song. What is that song, you ask? You don't remember it? You're gonna stop, drop, shut them down, open up shop. Oh no, that's a Rough Riders roll. I can't cut blind dados without thinking of that song, because this one we stopped and this one we dropped, so on and so forth. Anyway, that's just a little bit about blind dados, just in case you're wondering. So you could see that if I went to go put the shelf in, it wouldn't go in. So I'm basically going to have to notch out the front in order to cut that, and that gives me room to put a pocket screw in there. It's a pretty good way to do it. Okay, but right now I'm going to change the blade because I've got to cut some dados for this real thin stuff. So I'm going to take my little key out, slide this thing over, pull this little throat plate off. What I like to use is a push stick or something just to kind of pry this blade, to kind of wedge it. I wonder if I need to move this camera. Yeah, we'll try that. Okay, so I'm going to kind of put some pressure on the blade and then put this wrench on here. And I got to pull it toward me to loosen it. Pull this nut off. Don't drop the nut into the abyss of wood shavings because it's hard to find. Okay, so there's an outside blade on this side and there's an outside blade on this side. And the teeth need to be facing you. They also are marked this side out, okay? And then there's these little chippers that go in between the two outside blades. The chippers are almost all 1/8 of an inch thick. And then there's a couple that are a different size. Now you notice when I set these down, I set them on my push stick, I set them on my fence, but I don't set them on the metal table because this metal can chip those carbide teeth off of there and make them dull. So I don't set them on there. Okay, so this board that I'm trying to set up is a 1/2 inch, roughly. Let me get a measurement on here. It's actually a little over a half. It's a strong 32nd over a half. So it's probably about 0.54, I would say. So the two outside blades are 1/8. So if I put this on here right now, the way this is, I would have 1/8 and 1/8 for my outside, and then I've got two chippers in there that are both 1/8. Okay, so that's probably going to be pretty close, so it's probably going to be too small. I do have a couple other chippers. Here's one. And this chipper is just a hair under 1/8. It's kind of made for plywood because most plywood is going to be a hair under 3/4. And so that gives us just a hair under 1/8. And then I have one more that is a 1/16. Okay. So what I'm going to try first is I'm going to take one of the 1/8 ones off. So now I've got 3/8. And I'm going to try the 1/16 with the one that's a little undersized and see how close that is. And it's a little bit of a trial and error guessing game on this sometimes. Some of them we've done, plywood. Our plywood's generally pretty much the same, so we kind of have a combination that we know works with that. Now, if we're stacking a lot of blades, we don't always have room for this this little washer that goes on the outside. But if we don't have a full stack of like 3/4 on there, normally we can fit it on. And then I'm going to tighten that up the same way. Okay. I'm actually going to use this other throat plate because it sits a little tighter, so I'll have a little less chip out. And I'm going to drop my blade of hair. Oh yeah, right there, maybe. And we'll try this. So I'm going to get a scrap piece of wood, run it through there and see if that fits. Oh man, it's right on the money. I can't believe I got that on the first try. That is crazy. It's real good. All right, so if it was too small, I'd need to add something. If it's real close but it's too small, we've got some of these thin little metal plates, little spacers, and so sometimes we can just add those in instead of another chipper. If it would have been too big, I probably would have taken that 2-blade combination I threw in there out and went back with an 1/8 and probably one of those little discs. But that's sort of how we set that up, and then we will adjust our height until we get whatever height we want. Normally, most of our stuff we just do 1/4 inch deep, which is what I'm at, but I don't remember what I'm doing with this, so I might have to go a little deeper. But that's pretty much setting it up. Just like that. That was easy enough. Great. Okay, thanks for watching.